Hey, and welcome to my 100 Days Xmas special. Let's go. I got started by smashing this tree, made some basic tools, and whisked myself off to this ruined nether portal. There were some early goodies. From then, I entered this eerie cave. Thought about diving in, but it was too early on for me to get this distracted. Normally at this point, I'd hop in my boat across the seas, but since there was a Christmas special, I went towards the snowy mountains. Because I've been a naughty boy this year, I filled my pockets with coal, and then instantly get punished by Santa and sent to death in the snow. I spent the rest of the night in a tree wondering why I started this video. Day 2 started out with me once again falling into snow, finding some icebergs, and meeting the local residents. This seed was actually packed full of Christmassy goodness. Look at the surrounding. I came across an old shipwreck and decided it'd be a good time to get myself some early loot. Towards night time, I stumbled across X Max the spot and dug straight into that bad boy, revealing more glorious goodness. Look at that goodness. Beautiful, absolutely beautiful. As the sun rose on day number 3, I quickly realized that my pockets were bursting to the brim. Today was the day where I found somewhere to live. I came across this azalea tree, wrote down the coordinates because I know I needed that axolotl in my life. This is a good place to find them. After searching for a while through the crunchy snow, I finally came across my new home. This was near to a village which was absolutely perfect for what I wanted to do for the rest of the 100 days. I quickly rushed to greet my local neighbours, stealing all of their goodness and giving them a warm welcome. They didn't appreciate it and quickly fled indoors. This was a great start to our friendship. I chose a perfect spot on the top of the hill, just high enough above their houses to know that I was better than them, and ended the day. On day number 4, I made some chests, put all my goodies away from my previous adventures, made some tools, and then got to work deforesting the local forest. My new neighbours were surely not going to like me, as I literally destroyed most of the trees because I needed wood for my fancy new cabin. I'm sure they'd be impressed with it though. They're gonna love it. I woke up bright early in the morning, decided to chop down some more trees, as this cabin that I'd picked is gonna take a lot of wood. Towards the end of day number 6, I successfully amounted nearly 5 stacks of sprucey goodness. This should give me plenty of materials to start working on my starter base. I left the locals a little gift, saying sorry about the forest, but they didn't seem to care, and they ran away indoors. Now, because I've been a daddy for a year, my building abilities seem to have gone down the drain. Luckily, there's a thing called YouTube to make me look good. So this cabin is loosely based on this design, and when I say loosely, I mean it's an exact copy. Now, this build was a combination of spruce, some stone, some cobblestone, and some andesite. It made up of 2 big pillars at each end, and then a nice, lovely roof, which was mostly spruce stairs and trapdoors. And let me tell you, these spruce trapdoors made me nearly quit this whole thing. They were the most annoying things ever made in Minecraft. I don't know what Jens was thinking. I'm gonna message Jens and tell him, "Oh Jens, just get rid of these bloody trapdoors, they're crap." Day number 9 came around and I woke up bright and early and rushed off to destroy more of the beautiful green lush scenery. I left the neighbours another sign to say sorry and finished up with this stupid roof. Fast forward to day 11 and I never want to see a spruce ever again. The house is pretty much done on the outside. However, by this point, I think it's time we did some exploring. I have a bunch of stuff I want to get done on this 100 days and 10% has been making this stupid cabin. I decided to go caving, so I thought I'd check out my local cave, from which I'd only explored the entrance for materials for the cabin. After a little bit of a snooping around, I found an abandoned mineshaft. Creepers and zombies lurked around every corner, not to mention the little poisonous buggers that kept nipping my toes. I found some decent loot, golden apples, name tags and so on. I had enough food to keep going, so I went further into the abyss. Down here was pretty lurid. I found some juicy diamonds, also some lovely pieces of gold, and decided to get the heck out of Dodge. I made my way back home, deposited my goodness upon my lovely chest system, and felt thankful to live another day. I thought I'd do the villagers a little bit of a pleasure by planting some trees and made my first farm. The idea was simple. I'd make a big farm for the big animals and a little farm for the little animals. This one's for some chickens. I made a little tiny wheat farm because I needed some wheat to coax the animals back here. The first little bugger to join my clan was a lovely little nugget called Kevin, because yes, this is Christmas, and indeed he is home alone. But not for long. I started the day off by wasting my iron thanks to the newest member of this world, Kevin. The next plan was understanding that my farm would take a while to mature, so off I went, slaughtering the local residents. During my killing spree, I saw another village. Excited that wheat would be here, I made my way quickly. Unfortunately, the village was empty, but luckily a second village was on the horizon. To my joy, I found a butt ton of wheat and stumbled across another nether ruin portal with some decent gold armor. I finished the day off by kicking a child out of bed. Lovely. On day number 16, I got a load of sheep. Just call me Little Bo Peep and all my sheep. On day 17, I become a McDonald's drive-thru with all this beef. Now, for the next several days, I went on a huge resourcing collecting spree for my next big project. I wanted to keep with the sprucey Christmas theme, so more deforestation was in order. I needed spruce, stone, all the goodness to keep in theme with my house for this project. So, after annoying the neighbours again, I thought for my next big project, I could kidnap them all and force them to live in a little workers' building near my house, like a Santa's workshop. So, this is what I started to do. I tried to keep the same sort of theme, but make it more rectangular-like so I could fit more of the suckers in. I used the same design as my house, but let me tell you, by the end of building it, I was so sick to death with these stupid trap doors. Jens, please remove them from the game, they're stupid. I added some archers on the way in to let the villagers know this is a fearsome building, hoping to fill them with dread and Christmas spirit. I finished up the floor, marked out where the villagers would go. My idea was to transport them upstairs for breeding, drop them in when I needed him, like some sort of weird dispenser machine. The only problem was because my stupid sprucey trapdoory roof was a weird pointy shape, they wouldn't just drop in, so I had to fix some things. Now, the building is pretty much done. It's time to capture some elves for Squiddy's little grotto. I started to build the Polar Express using the rails I'd collected from the abandoned mineshaft. It was all going swimmingly until I ran out of iron. I was desperate. I slayed the local golems in hope this would quench the rail thirst I had, but unfortunately, I was still dry in the mouth. More mining was needed. Off I popped into the mines, found a bunch of iron, searched deep down, found some gold and redstone and diamonds. I also stumbled across a way out, which was nice. As I was casually drowning, I came across a mob spawner and got some goodies before returning to the surface. The next day, I was super excited to finish my elf transport. I managed to collect enough iron in the end. This allowed me to place some more rails and some powered rails to give the elves a last little bit of enjoyment before they get put to work and banished in Squiddy's workshop forever. The first elf was enjoying his last ride until he managed to jump out of the window. After I saw this, I quickly fixed the problem and they all went in swimmingly one by one. I also found a random igloo. I killed a man and left him alone because God knows I've got enough men in my loft. The first decent librarian I got was a mending one, so I quickly made some paper and locked that little sucker in because I'm gonna need it. I got him prepared for the dispensary action as he was gonna be going downstairs to the working zone. The next guy that I managed to get was a protection 3, which was gonna be brilliant for my armor. However, the protection guy wanted emeralds, so I went off to see my local neighbors and traded some little sticks for some beautiful emeralds. Got a bit of a decent deal, so I think I'm going to keep this guy around. I got enough emeralds from the stick guy and immediately got myself the Protection 3 book because, let's be honest, I'm going to need it. The next job was to get this guy downstairs into the working zone to join Mr. Mending Man. I managed to do it quite successfully and set his little shop up. Now was the time to increase my elves, so I thought it'd be a good idea to start the mass baby making production. I sheared my lovely sheep for some bed, gave the elves some comfort, as well as some tasty baguettes, because apparently that's what gets them going, and gets the babies flowing. I had enough of the men in my loft, so now it was time to whisk myself off to a new adventure. I enchanted my Santa suit with mending and protection, thanks to the lovely boys. I made myself a nether portal in the fancy way, because I'm not a complete noob, not just yet anyway. And at last it was time for the nether. Upon arrival, I screenshotted to make sure I wouldn't lose my nether portal, killed some ghast to show them who's really alpha male, killed some other squidgy things that got in my way, and some more flying screamy boys. I killed some piggies, and also killed myself some big slendy boys, because I needed them pearls. While I was in the boating mood, I went for a little bit of a tipple over the edge in hopes I wouldn't perish, and I didn't. Luckily, we found a bastion. Upon entering the bastion, I found myself staring over the edge, wishing I was somewhere else. This place is a hellhole, but I really wanted the treasure. I thought the best way and the dad way would be for me to climb the outside very, very, very carefully. This plan worked very well, and I found myself stabbing a bunch of toes. After the big toe fight, I took some slimy boys out and headed for the treasure. Ancient debris. Look at this. Your boy is getting stacked already. I got myself some really good loot. I managed to mine all the gold and got the heck out of there alive. I'm quite proud of myself. I found a couple more chests inside the bastion, which I quickly looted, and found some more gold blocks on the outside. I felt like my luck was running out, so I got the heck out of there. At this point, my pockets were jam-packed, so I thought what I'd do is try and get out while I still could. I'd been in the nether for quite a while, even though this doesn't look like it. It had been a few days. This seemed to take several days since I didn't realize how far I was away. I think I was about 7,000 blocks away from my house, but we got there in the end. Ah, home sweet home. I deposited all my goodies into my chest systems, enchanted the Santa suit, and said hello to my new children. Fed them some more baby-making baguettes because we needed some more villagers in this household. There purely wasn't enough men. I went to see my good friend Mr. Stickman, decided that he would make a grey addition to the old elf factory, so I took him and popped him in my house with the rest of the fellas. Getting upstairs, these guys seem to be getting too comfortable in this boat, and a baby fell through the ceiling. I also annoyed the local guard who didn't like me. I trapped the baby and then took care of this sucker. I tried to free the boys out of the boat but ended up smacking them. Because I accidentally whacked this guy, he seemed to put his prices up. This was not a good move. Thought it'd be a good thing to do to name my two best people. Everybody, please meet Linda and Martin, and also Big Chop. Now, I'd realised I'd only been basically making babies and not really thinking on the sustainability of my Xmas world. So, what I did was started on the sugarcane farm. I really needed all this paper to trade with the local men. So, for a full night, I went out, gathered all the sugarcane I could in my local area, just to give a good old kickstart to the farm. The farm was growing well, so I decided to make another layer. Hopefully this would double my production and double the paper. The next day I traded some more emeralds with Big Chop. He's the best guy. The child grew up, so I unveiled him. This was the most painful thing of this whole video, was trying to get some decent enchantments from these pesky villagers. I must have spent a fair few days going back and forth trying to barter with them. The next thing I wanted to do was check on the sugarcane. It had been a whole day and nothing had grown yet. This guy fortunately had given me Fortune 3. This would definitely come in for further mining adventures. From my previous experience with the igloo guy that I cured, I reckon it'd be a good idea to infect these lads as well, in hopes that they get me some better bargains. I set out with the same sort of design as my house, with the spruce stairs and the horrible trapdoors. Jens, remove them! As nighttime fell, I managed to put a zombie in a minecart in hopes that he could be my friend forever. He just kept trying to hug me and wouldn't go inside. After a long night of being punched in the face, I finally rescued him, covered him in dirt, and then went to bed because I was knackered. Oh, let's call him Terrence. Good night, Terrence. In the morning, I wanted to do some brewing, but then quickly realised that I still hadn't got any blaze rods, so that was a waste of time. To make matters worse, I also had a peeping Tom at the window. I don't know what this guy was doing. Maybe he just liked my house, but he needed to go. I woke up in the morning to find Big Chop was being stingy and didn't want to sell me any more sticks. Visited the sugarcane farm to find only 5 pieces of cane grown. I don't know what was happening here. In frustration and needing more paper, I destroyed one of my columns of my farm, as this was the most paper I've ever had in my life and needed it right now. Like an idiot, I realised that Big Choppin did need his own little block to replenish his stock. This took me a fair few days to realise, and I'm not proud of myself. Back to the old potion problem. In order to get the best bargain trades around, I needed Terrans to rough them up. But what's the point in a good roughing up without the potions? This fortress proved to be hard to find. Now, I'm a sucker for not sticking to my plan and getting distracted, so I did what anyone would do in this situation, and I got more loot. After the bastion, I set off back on my main mission to find the fortress, killed a few endermen, and carried on looking. As I travelled through the baked bean-filled landscape, I decided to get some more XP. I tormented the local piggies, but they slowly backfired and turned into a horror film. They chased me left and right and up and down. A few bum twitchy moments later, I'd had enough of today's recording and cowered in a cave for tomorrow's squid to deal with. After a good night's sleep in the real world, I logged on and fried up yesterday's bacon with the Santa stick and got back on track. The next day, I came across, believe it or not, another bastion. Once again, I showed everyone who was the daddy here and claimed all the loot. After all my recent shenanigans, I thought it would be best if I travelled through the overworld from the safety of my boat. I wanted to find the fortress, but wasn't having any luck doing it in the nether. Thankfully, from all the bastions I'd been looting, I'd seemed to have acquired lots of obsidian, so I decided to row far away and make a portal, in hopes to find the Blaze Land. But, huzzah! I finally came across the fortress. Without hesitation, I stabbed Mr. and Mrs. Blaze, slapped up their brother, and even gave the grandma a good prodding. After filling my pockets to the brim with all the nuclear rods I could, I made my way back home. As before, I was flipping miles away from home, and it took a fair few days to get back. Today was the day I'd been waiting for. I quickly made the splashy potions of weakness and got the track ready for Terrence's first victim, my old friend, Big Chop. I tried pushing Terrence backwards towards Choppy, but for some reason, he just flew outside. Terrence, being the stubborn green man he is, all he wanted to do was punch me away and accept his hot doom. F's in the chat for Terrence, please. This is a sad day. The next day, I enchanted my Santa pants. Big Chop was still holding out on me, so I decided to cheat on him with his arch nemesis, Gary. Gary showered me with green love in exchange for some old sticks. I visited my old weird igloo friend and leveled him up to get rid of some of the Bastion's gold in exchange for some emeralds. I changed the infection design and added a door to not repeat history. Rip Terrence. Big Chop was still holding out on me, so I was definitely going to infect him first. Night came and it was showtime. This zombie was dodging my minecart like I do uploads. I finally got him, but he was being awkward. After a long night of the zombie trolling me, I finally got him in. At this point, I couldn't wait for the day to be over, but not before infecting Big Chop. I listened out as Chop's voice was no more. The zombie had killed him. I was so hurt and confused. I did a bit of research to find out why this tragedy had happened. It turns out, if you play on normal mode instead of hardcore, your chances of getting a zombified villager is 50-50. As opposed to playing in hardcore, where every time you get a zombie next to a villager and get it zombified, it's 100%. So how on earth is normal mode harder than hardcore? Anyway, back to the script. I tried another villager, but this only resulted in more death. It was 2-0 to Terrence. I went upstairs to steal another elf for the naughty or nice therapy. Turns out this guy wanted to be a good elf. I got to work quickly healing this poor sucker. Then it was time for bed, as it had been a long day of loss. Rip Big Chop. In the morning, I did my daily routine of seeing my weird gold-loving friend. Decided it was time to give my armor some upgrades, so I threw some protection on the Santa Pan. At this point, I had 0 working farms, so I thought about eating the horse. I then stabbed the local residents. This cow definitely had the last laugh. After a night of barbecuing, I went to bed and quickly woke to see my new friend had been cured. I decided to turn him into a cleric because I had so much gold. It was such an easy money-making opportunity. Big profits. Big Terrence was back in action, and the Minecraft wiki seemed to be right. That's 2 deaths and 2 zombies. I splashed him with my magic liquid again, and I also fed him his 1 a day. I already knew what this guy was going to be. My new cleric had an obsession with glass bottles, so I visited the local beach to do some digging, filled my pockets to the brim with sand, or I like to call it money. My new villager was cured, and I turned him into a farmer straight away. Many nights I've gone to bed with my tummy talking to me, but no more. I got to work on finding some better enchantments. Efficiency or infinity was on the list, but this guy was in fact the worst villager. Bad buck after bad buck, I set his track in position with Terrence. This villager was on the chopping block. With the prospect of death, he decided to buck his ideas up and gave me looting 3. What a nice guy. I gave the cleric some smelted sand and happily took all of his money. I put the lovely new enchantment onto my diamond sword, as this would come in later on in the video. I did some more trading and accidentally slapped the new worker in the face. Annoyingly, this resulted in his prices shooting through the roof, so I left his face up to Terrence. Good job, Terrence. I never liked him anyway. Upstairs, Linda and Martin said goodbye to their final child, as I whisked him down to the working room. Since the nest was empty, it was time for these heroes to get down to business with these baguettes. The new worker gave me the flame enchantment, so I popped this on my bow. The next adventure was upon us. I made some beautiful Eye of Enders and prepared myself for the dragon fight. I needed some arrows, so I went to see Gary. He tricked me into giving me lots of gravel and emeralds, and in return, he completely scammed me and never gave me any arrows back. Never mind, I'd get arrows on the way. I followed the Eyes of Ender. It was only a short boat ride away, which led me to this island. Luckily, I got a few feathers on the surface and made my way to find the portal room. It was deep underground. I had a little sleep at the portal. In the morning, I did a little twerk to warm up the old knees for the dragon fight. I mean, come on, will you just look at these shots? It never leaves you guys. The skills, it never leaves you. Even though it had been absolutely ages since I fought the dragon, she went down pretty quickly. I hoovered up all the glorious XP and stole her baby. My next goal was to get a lovely set of wings, so off to the end city we go. I searched the highlands for what seemed like forever and finally found a city. Let's just say I wasn't prepared for how annoying these shulkers was. These guys unleashed a full army of levitating spit towards me, and it was just relentless. I quickly cowered outside the building to catch my breath and to wipe off all the spit. Now was the time to stab them in the back. Somehow, the guided slobbery missile spit still reached me, and off I went floating. I blocked off all possible spit routes and got some good loot. Like a noob, I mined the ender chest without silk touch, and it broke. But hey, like I said, I haven't played the game properly in well over a year, so leave me alone. By this point, I'd had enough of the constant attack, so I thought I'd try and find what I came here for, the Elytra. Back on my adventure, I killed some Endermen for some more pearls. These highlands were pretty small, with giant gaps of nothingness in between, so the pearls really helped getting from island to island. At last, I came across the ship, I slapped up this Spitman and claimed my wings, as well as the dragon head. I thought while I was here, I better get some shulker shells, as I needed the shulker boxes for some upcoming projects. Now was the time to leave this hellhole and, well, find another Elytra. I really wanted 2 on this journey, as I knew if I died I was going to lose this one, and I didn't want to come back here ever again. Since I wasn't prepared or organised, I didn't bring any fireworks. The only thing I could do at this point to navigate around the end cities was to nerdpole and float away. A few hundred blocks later, I found myself another city. I managed to get up to the loot room and deposited all my stuff, even the elytra, just in case I died here. I made my way over to the ship, looted the chest, and got my second set of wings. Now was the time to get out of here and get back home. I'd missed the elves so much. I did a little bit of a stupid daring jump into the abyss since my end portal coordinates was this way. Luckily, some land did manage to render in and I didn't die. I jumped through the gateway and into the end portal, successfully completing the game. Now all that was left to do was to get home safely. Oh, I also found the local library, looted all the paper for some fireworks, and took all of their books. Haha, nerds. I managed to find my way out of the stronghold and sailed back home. Upon arriving home, I mounted my glorious dragon head upon my house. Very Skyrim. I went to see my 2 favourite lovebirds in the loft to see they haven't been very busy. After doing some trades, another baby fell from above. They must have heard me complaining. I went upstairs and blocked up any little hole as these suckers were out of control. As the cleric was getting a little too personal with this guy, I decided to split them up before anything weird happened. Next thing to do was to put mending and unbreaking on my elytra, aka the Santa sleigh. I went back to the new guy to give him a job, but he seemed to have other ideas. He got up and walked straight out of the door. I tried to lure him back with bread, but the cheeky little man got himself a little too comfortable in my house. So he turned himself into a toolsmith, so honestly I thought I'd just leave him there. Maybe it'd be useful later on. Now it was time for the next big project. I really wanted to build something in this 100 days, to be able to host a lovely Christmas dinner for all my friends so far. I immediately got to work destroying more of the forest. Honestly, I'm surprised there's much left of the forest at this point. I chopped through the day and night. By this point, I was really detesting my iron axe. I went on another little adventure to find myself some diamonds. I came across the usual iron, gold and redstone, but no diamonds. I got out of there, found another little cave, and after exploring another abandoned mineshaft, I left with 1 diamond. Oh, the joys. Now, before I could start my next big project, I really needed a better axe, so I thought I'd start making an enchantment room. After all, I had 60 levels just sat there. Once I was home, I did a little trading and got my iron onto smelt. I also upgraded our house toolsmith, as apparently they can sell you decent axes if you get the right one. So with my lack of diamonds, this is what I did. Reluctantly, I bought an ungodly amount of shovels and diamond hoes. As you can tell, I'm pretty desperate for a fancy axe. After a day or 2, I finally leveled him up to master, but he let me down, big time. What a waste of emeralds. That evening, I got straight to work on my enchantment room. This was pretty simple. I kept the same style as my house and just built it off to the side. I used some of the pretty amethyst blocks from my recent travels as I could feel the magic as I walked across them. It filled me with enchantmentness and excitementness. Then I popped the enchantment table down and it was pretty much done. I checked on the elves and to my surprise my buddy the cleric was zombified. I was so confused. I checked Terrence, but he was in the same place. I got to curing him and then realised that the door was open behind Terrence, so I closed it just in case something snuck past Big T in the middle of the night. I finished up the enchantment room and started trading with my new elf, the weaponsmith, in an attempt to finally get the diamond axe. Again, I made a poor financial decision and bought too many iron axes off him. He was a really good salesman. But I thought I'd use all this for the next big project. I needed spruce and leaves. While I was chopping, I realised I didn't have any shears, so I went to visit the local golem. Now, I don't know what was going on through my head. I think I was just getting a little bit too cocky. I started to slap him up without building my little nerd pole. I also forgot to put on my netherite chest plate. My guy just straight up yeeted me into 2023. My levels, my poor levels, my enchanted diamond axe. It all slipped away in front of my eyes. And only myself to blame. I took care of the golem the proper way, and then I felt like yeeting myself into this hole. Like a form of punishment, I did nothing but chop trees for the next several days. To try and make things better, I tamed myself my first dog and called him Rudolph. The new elf started demanding that he wanted flint, so off I went to the nether to do so. Also, while I was here, I got some pretty lights for the Christmas dinner party, and also some glass for the cleric. I had loads of gravel, so I traded with Evil Gary, and then leveled up my elf some more. Finally, after all my hard work, I was presented with a measly unbreaking 1 diamond axe. The joys. Not happy by this, I stooped as low as buying some bottles of XP and even going back to the nether to get level 30. I hopped back home and enchanted my axe, aka the candy cane. Life was good. With my amazing sugary weapon, I went to town on the local woods and smashed up some rocks. I found the perfect place to start the Christmas haul and got leveling out the area. And got started on this huge merry place. Again, I know this is the same as all the other builds, but hey, it's got to look uniform, right? The only difference was this place was huge. It took so many resources, so many days going back and forth, chopping and building and chopping and building. By the end of it, my poor candy cane axe was begging, no more! The most annoying part, as always, was the stupid trapdoors. Again, please Jens, remove the stupid trapdoors. After a few days of building, this place was really taking shape. I worked on a lovely design for the front to give it some of that cozy, magnificent, grand feeling. At this point, I was homing my building time skills and I just winged it to whatever felt right. And it felt right. I worked on the path and did some terraforming so this place just didn't look like it'd fall over. And you guessed it, I needed more wood. After this, I hung some lights and fixed the floor. I built the table and then got to work on the seating. I murdered some of my friends outside my house for the food platters. The next thing on the list was food. I travelled to another village for some hay for some cakes and also got myself some pumpkins. On the way home, I found this big hole and I couldn't resist. I dived in headfirst into this big mama. Like any good cave, at the end, there was a reward. In the shape of some lovely diamonds. I got out of there before I got distracted and returned back to my mission. It's milking time! I channeled my inner Mary Berry and got to work on the grub, making lots and lots of cakes, sprucing up the table and adding food everywhere. One thing I wanted to do was to name my villagers, so I got to work leveling up my book elf. Back to decorating. I popped up some leaves and even some shroom lights, as nothing says Christmas like random bushes everywhere. This place was a vibe. I modified the Polar Express to whisk my friends off to the Christmas delight. And the first lad that was off was Martin. A couple of hiccups here and there, but he went and took his place at the table. Next was Linda. Now I don't know how much bread Linda had consumed or if she was just pregnant, but she was a heavy one. I had to push her up to the top to get her in. The next was the house toolsmith, which indeed I did leave outside because it got dark and I got scared. In the morning, to my surprise, he was still alive, so he joined the gang next. Scared for my friend's safety, I added some doors to the front. Now, as you can see, some of the elves didn't want to go inside, but tough, because it's my video. I worked on a fancy light for the centre of the table. It looks beautiful, doesn't it? To level up my elf, he wanted ink. Die, brothers. I'm sorry, it was for a good cause, and the villagers need naming. After all this cheeky bugger wanted 19 emeralds for one measly name tag. What a Christmas rip-off. I took the main man Kevin, also letting the rest of the chickens out because, well, it's Christmas. Kevin gets the head of the table because he's an OG. That night, I wanted more fireworks for my next adventure. I slapped up some creepers, and it was off to the nether. I craved one last adventure before Christmas. I wanted to slay one last beast, but with 9 days remaining, it was going to be a tough one. I made my way towards Nether Fortress coords, but ended up falling in lava. I didn't think much of it because of the Santa suit. Again, like an idiot, I forgot to put my chest plate back on and got surprise stabbed by a piglin. As I wrote down my coords of my death, I realised my worst nightmare had become a reality. All my stuff had gone. Or had it. I geared up again as fast as I could and rushed back to the scene. I struggled to find it, as this nether was a rat run. Not feeling confident to make my way around safely, I mined and mined through to my death coords. And right then, a Christmas miracle, all my stuff was there. Everything was not lost. It was a sign. A Christmas sign. I brushed myself off, continued mining to the cords and found the stinky nether fortress, and started the grand task of gathering some wither skulls. Realistically, I had about 6 days to get all the skulls, and let me tell you, this was going to take all 6 of them. This particular fortress was pretty small, and most of it generated in the surfaces of the nearby biome. Now, I'm not sure if this affected the spawn rate, but it felt like it. Saying that, I got my first skull pretty quickly. I tried turning down my render distance to small, and then back again multiple times to see if this would force the withers to spawn. But in the end, it was just a waiting game. I did what I could to clear the area from other pesky beasts to allow the withers to spawn. Piglins were the main suckers around here. Within an hour, I managed to get another skull, and then on day number 94, I got the last one. I whisked myself back home filled with excitement, got straight into bed, and then in the morning, I worked on my wither trap. I needed obsidian, back to the nether for soul sand, and then more obsidian. Time was of the essence, as Christmas was just around the corner. I enchanted my sword, and then straight to the end for the final beast. Admittedly, this was a pretty cheated boss fight, but hey, I wasn't prepared to lose everything this close to the end, no pun intended. The fearsome dead thing spawned in with a blast. With his head stuck in the bedrock, I chopped him down, and that, my friend, was how this squid saved Christmas, or something. I stole his star, and placed it on top of the tree thing. I stood underneath it, because I am a star. Beautiful. To make the Christmas feast more Christmassy, I made some snow golems. This wasn't the greatest of idea, as they got everywhere, literally no manners, on the table, dragging their snowiness across the food. What a disaster. As this adventure was coming to an end, I gave my elves a gift of names. Let me introduce you to Derek the Cleric, Terence Jr., and a quick flight away, my lovely weird igloo friend, Dermot. Thanks for the emeralds, pal. Also, not forgetting Chef Bobby. Now was the time to get my other friends to the Christmas Hall. Unfortunately, Terence isn't invited, as he'd kill everyone. Sorry, Terence Jr. The first elf was off, but rudely denied access thanks to some new jokers in the hall, the golems. These guys are the worst. With one side of the table filled, I ran some tracks to the other side in preparation for the rest of the friends. After I got everyone in there was a bit of a traffic jam, but managed to get everyone in place. Everyone here deserved a spot at the table for one reason or another. They helped me on my journey. Here we are, on day number 98. What was we going to do for the last 2 days? Well, we're going to sit at this table, eat lots of food, and spend time with the people that matter most. And that, my friends, is 100 days in the Christmas world. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. It took a while to make, and I just about got it uploaded for Christmas Eve. I hope you guys have a very Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, whatever you guys celebrate. I hope you spend some loving time with your friends and family and enjoy it. Merry Christmas from me, my family, to yours, and I'll see you next year, hopefully for a lot more videos. Bye!